Our last speaker is Ileana Cretu and Mihai Lupu. Ms. Cretu is a PhD textile conservator in the National Art Museum in Bucharest, Romania, specializing in Byzantine embroidery. Up to 2004, she was chief in charge of the Textile Conservation Department at the National Museum of Art of Romania and was conservator of textiles exhibited at the Medieval Art Gallery at the museum as well. She was a coordinator for the conservation of the Byzantine embroidery tomb veil of Maria of Mangop, Putna Monastery, exhibited at the Vatican Museums in 2004. Also that year, she worked on reopening the Putna Monastery Museum and the National Museum Art Gallery. Presently, she has been teaching the basis of scientific conservation of textiles at the Romanian Ministry of Culture Center for Post-High School and Postgraduate Education. She's the author of numerous scientific publications, catalogs, and is in the process of publishing a new book through Archetype on the dyes used in Romanian medieval and archaeological textiles and Byzantium embroideries. It's titled History of Previous Repairs of Romanian Byzantine Embroideries, 15th to 19th Century. Her colleague, Mihai Lupu, lives in Bucharest, Romania as well. He's a chemist in the Chemical Investigation Laboratory of the National Museum of Art, same museum, where he conducts scientific research on materials and techniques, specializes in assistance for conservation and restoration, and works with theoretical training in chemistry for conservators. He's a member of the National Committee for Mural Paintings and Restoration, and he's been deputy chief of the conservation section of the National Museum of Art. He is author of many scientific publications, including a publication he and Ms. Cretu recently wrote on materials used in Chinese textiles from the National Museum of Romania. Ms. Cretu will be presenting a talk that she has co-authored with Mr. Lupu called Wet Cleaning Methodology and the National Art Museum of Romania. Unfortunately, Mihai Lupu is not able to attend the symposium, but please join me in welcoming Ileana Cretu.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's really a great honor and a great pleasure for me to be again here in the Metropolitan Museum. For the very beginning, I want to thank a lot to the Metropolitan Museum for this invitation, and especially for Mrs. Florica Zaharia, the chief in charge of Textile Department, where I benefit together with my colleague of a 3 months fellowship this year. To Mrs. Tina Kane, who had great encouragement in sustaining us to presenting this paper, to Mrs. Sarah Pickman, who helped us a lot, and to all those who made possible this presence here. Also, I want to thank you to my colleagues from the Metropolitan Museum, who were very interested in what we are doing in Romania. I propose you a trip from the very modern system of cleaning to traditional system of cleaning. And this paper, I hope, will not be too long for you, because I want briefly to speak about the National Museum of Art History and its characteristics of its collection, textile collection, because it is almost unknown, and our problems are completely different from what happened in other parts of the world because of our own history and because of the history of the Romanian textiles. And in the second part, I will introduce you the natural detergent. We are working in a traditional way. It is called Radix Saponaria officinalis. Maybe some of them are working with it. It's a very well detergent, but we speak about this later. We use it only for gold embroideries and from metal textiles with metal threads. For the beginning, I want to say that this paper will not focus on tapestry because there are not special for the Romanian national treasuries. We have only few tapestries, and we did not make any scientific studies on them. But you will see further what I am intending to do. Only a few words about the National Museum of Art. Its roots are in the 1831 National Museum of Antiquities, based on private collection of Prince Ghica, and established in his own palace. During the next of 160 years, the museum changes his locations 5 times because the increase of his heritage. In 1912, King Carol I decided to divide the whole collection between many museums, National Museum of Art being then the museum which conserved and preserved the textile collection, paintings, art. In 1914, King Carol I decided to donate his own collection to the museum, but he put a condition: all the painting collection should be displayed in the royal palace. So in 1950, when the communist dictatorship came to Romania, the museum was moved in one wing of the former royal palace. 1989, the worst year for the Romanian treasuries, heritage, because the museum has destroyed 60 to 50%, and we lost around 1,000 pictures. There was a huge collaboration between European authorities and Romanian authorities to save some of these. From 1990 to, you have now some pictures from the 1925 National Museum of Art. It's one of the locations now. It's hosting the National Romanian Peasant Museum, and is dedicated only to ethnographic art. That means a lot of carpets, kilim carpets, but also pile carpets, rugs, and costumes and embroidery. Follow 10 very difficult years when we have a huge task to restore the palace, to rebuild all the laboratories, to develop a new project for restoring textiles, because we wanted to present our heritage abroad. In the same time, we work hard to reopen 3 of the main galleries, and we have in plan to be open another 4 galleries containing textiles in 2012. In 2003, another task, we have to reopen the Museum of Collection, which is a branch of the National Museum of Art, containing 44 different collections donated during 1927 and until these days. But this museum is concentrated on textiles coming from Minor Asia, China and Japan. When we are discussing the wet cleaning procedures in Romania, we have to have in mind the particularities of Romanian textiles collections. And you should have in mind also that these textiles collection are coming from private persons who donated them to the museum, but put a very difficult condition: not to be moved from their original location, not to be displayed in other way that they wanted. So that was another huge problem for us. A lot of these objects were garments, were used as garments, were used as carpets, rugs with daily function, were liturgical objects, and so on. So in the moment they are entering in the museum, we have to think to solutions that respect these conditions of donation. For a lot of our textiles, the vertical display position was impossible to be changed, and because of this, and for a lot of years they stood hang on the walls without showcases. You can imagine the dry, the brittle, the fragile of all the material organics, and you can also imagine that these things should be conserved and repaired. The transfer of collections, the dramatic change of legislation, the earthquakes, the wars, the revolution that happened in the last of 160 years, the own history of the objects were very important causes of degrading these things. The wet cleaning procedures developed in 3 stages between 1960 to 1964, when we imported standard recipes from Poland because we discovered then there was a major archaeological discovery in that days, and we do not have any facilities, any laboratories, and any specialists. So we asked for help from Poland. In between 1974 and 1981, we 1989, we tried to improve these recipes, and as you see, we wanted to test the dyes before washing. We started to make microanalysis because we do not have enough money for buying technology to do something more than that. And we try to use detergents, non-ionic detergents, surfactants, and we introduced Romopal OF10. It is a Romanian detergent which was better than Hostapon because it was non-aggressive to dyes, and it was very easy to be rinsed, and it has a pH neutral. It's the time when we are introducing Radix Saponaria officinalis, which was brought from tradition, from historical tradition of Romania. You have to know that our women have wearing a lot of clothes with metal threads, generally copper with cotton core. And we think that could be a solution for the gold embroideries, which have gilded silver thread. We also imported EDTA, EDTA, that's complex on 2, from metal cleaning, but in a very small percentages. What you see there are the percentages which decreases all the time till 2009. Hydration was made with glycerin, and we will talk about this later because we are not using glycerin anymore, as you know. But for our drying textiles, it works, and it works very good for archaeological things. Fixing colors and refreshing them, fixing dyes and refreshing colors with acetic acid, 3 to 5%. It was used only for textiles or pieces having wool or silk, not metal thread, cotton or cellulosic fibers. We use distillated water instead of deionized water because the price was much lesser and the final results were the same. We use the dry on plain surfaces with the sandwiches absorbent paper made in Romania, and which was extremely good because it was neutral. The water temperature doesn't decrease more than 22 centigrade, but there were some examples when we raise a little this temperature to help the dirty particles to get off the textiles, and you will see an example of that. This period is extremely important because we try to eliminate glycerin in hydrating procedures, and we introduce long relaxations time, 24 hours till 6 months, with the re-immersion, repeating the treatment after 6 months. As I already told you, there was a huge task to do between 1990 and 2009. All the problems we had put us in the difficult position. We had to reopen precisely the art medieval gallery, which contains gold embroideries, brocades, laces, all of them made with metal threads. Radix saponaria officinalis was tested. We are using it since 1982, but the test began in 1975. And we could say that after 10 years now and 20 years back, we do not see any kind of secondary effects using this kind of detergent. Romopal was not more produced after 1990. The fabric collapsed. They produced Simpal, the same detergent family, but with not the same good results because it becomes aggressive for the old dyes. So we decide to stop its using, and instead of it to use Radix saponaria officinalis. Generally, it's to mention that the immersion time decreases from 1 hour to 15 minutes, and also the concentrations. It should be said that when we start working with 10% detergents, now we are working with 0.5 thousandths percentage, or 1,000 percentage on 1 liter of water. Because we tested the effect. Yes, thank you. Sorry, and we discovered that the cleaning is effectively, has some effect at this concentration, but the rinsing procedures are much more easier to do. The most important principle we are looking for now is the principle of minimum intervention. We are not trying to wash everything in any condition, even a lot of textiles are extremely damaged. But this is another discussion. Let me introduce you the Radix saponaria officinalis. You see the flower there is a perennial plant. It's very easy to be grown. We are using only the roots, which has to be extremely, extremely dry. We prefer the roots which were preserved several years before using it. It's make, let's say, a tea, boiling these roots. The general concentration is 3 or 5 spoons to 1 liter of distillated water, and after boiling it to until the water decreases at half of the quantity, we are taking off the roots. They can be reused in another bath, but using a smaller quantity of water. This detergent, unfortunately, there are not. I didn't find any scientific studies about its components, about how it's its chemical mechanism, nothing at all. What I'm saying you, it's by practice. In the photo up, you see textile made with copper fiber, with copper thread on bottom, on cotton core, before cleaning. We tested with distillated water, and then in the near area with the Radix saponaria solution. You see the results after 5 minutes of immersion, just in this concentration. I will not lose time speaking about this. There are the general principles that we already know, but we are really concerned about the real shape of conservation and about the original techniques, materials, and added materials when we are deciding what to do, how to clean. Just it's not a scientific definition of the objects. I wanted just to have you in mind what we've done in the last of almost 50 years. There were clean 840 pieces. Unfortunately, for the half of this time, we do not have quite good documents, but you can see very well that tapestries are only 32. For the others, still 41, I didn't have any informations. and the great majority of objects are archaeological items, gold embroideries, different other kind of embroideries from Europe, from India, from China, from Japan, Suzani embroideries, and pile carpet and rugs. Tapestry are not specific Romanian textile heritage, as I already told you. Probably most of you are knowing Dumitru Tuduc as very is being known as a forgery of textile of art. This could be another discussion for another workshop, but he was in fact the main textile conservator of the royal family. He has his own studio for making tapestries and conservation, and I had small information that in 1934 he was doing vacuum cleaner, that's something very new in Romania, and washings, but no other informations. You can see the royal throne room where there are no tapestries. Probably the royal family brought the first tapestries in 1866, before 1866 in Romania, but they were displayed on their residences, not in Bucharest particularly, but in other places. A single mention in the Textile Conservation Laboratory archive about those 34 tapestries, which have to be preserved in order to be displayed in one of the king's residences, and that was the Sandal receipt I already told about. Now, 3 images about one of our most well-known tapestries. Unfortunately, there is no publication about this kind of textiles. We have only a catalog published in 1965 telling about 24 tapestries made in Brussels, in Oudenaarde, and in Lille, but with no more informations. In fact, the standard recipes were imposed to be used because we discovered 2 major medieval graves, completed men and women costumes, 36 pieces totally, from fur to painted textiles to embroidery to pile carpets, every imagining technique. You have there the 6 types of standard receipts for removing impurities, for removing corrosion products, for fixing painting on the textile, and for fixing finally the textile on a terryland with impranil or imprafix. That was the single mention we have, not mention anything about their structure, their composition, about nothing. But the conservation looked quite good until the adhesive become aged, and we have to do something, because otherwise we will lose all of this collection. There was a piece which was extremely damaged. It's a Kamha from 1593. We try to clean it. It was a major project who was developed during the last of 10 years. Unfortunately, I can't give you more details because it's in process of publication, and that was the wish of my colleagues. But I can tell you that in the receipts where there were used combinations of solvents, and the last bath were using Radix saponaria officinalis. From an extremely brittle product, now we have this marvelous costume which has regained all the properties of silk, and that keeps also some parts of the metallic threads which we discovered after these cleanings. There are some examples of receipts used in that time to each pieces. For more information, it's okay for us to give you all the list of these receipts. If you are interested in, I don't know, studying the history of the field, with great pleasure. It's not secrets. So this is a piece that I told you about, where we try to rinse the temperature in order to clean it. It was an liturgical object, an epitrachilion from the 17th century, which was extremely brittle, because they used an adhesive to keep in place all the three original linings and the embroidery. And it was animal glue, glue made of, I don't know what, because it wasn't possible to determine that. But we have to choose some recipes to clean it. And the most important thing were the immersions in distillated water, raising step by step the temperature from 22 degrees until 45 degrees. It's not as hot as it should like, because the glue was dissoluted in water, and then it was redeposit, thank you, on the surface. Another very important innovation, it was that we tried to keep the embroidery in a relative humidification area, where we raise the relative humidity up and up till the embroidery works a lot and get her own capacity of its hydroscopic capacities. You can see the results in the left side, the embroidery as it was in 1981, in 1984, and the real condition without any changings. It is not displayed, because if it's shape of conservation, we are not sure what it will happen in a permanent exhibition, but time by time it is shown to the public. Another extremely important project, this is an epitaphios, an epitaph from Neamț Monastery, 260 centimeter on 156 centimeters, extremely heavy because it's worked on silver gilded thread. It has a huge problem. All the background was embroidered with a silk which has a very bleaching red dye. And the epitaphios is one of the oldest in Romania. Become drier and drier because it was extremely dirty, and the microclimate in the former museum was not quite as it should be. So we were asked to do something. This is the image that Mr. Lupu decided to do in 1980. It was an innovation for that time because we tried to clean it without immersion. There was built a structure, frustum form into the basin, and all the faces were wrapped into absorbent paper, cut it in the shape of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 faces. The angle of the slope was extremely small, 30 degrees, and the surface number 5 was equal in dimensions with the Jesus dimension. We put it with the face down because we were afraid that during the cleaning, by capillarity, the dirty will pass from the back side to the front side. we test first for the 1 and 2 sides of the textile, and then 3, 4. The last part was the Jesus, which was embroidered with white, and we were afraid that something could happen. Unfortunately, nobody in that time think to make photos of this thing. The major problem was that it has 3,500, I don't know how many pearls, and that was the problem, that dismantling this, we will lose something. So there are a huge quantity of photos showing each pearl in each place, and a lot of designs about that, but not nothing about the cleaning. So I have to say that there was a practice before doing that. We try to do it with different kinds of materials to make exercise and to diminish the risk of handling during the treatment. It was not an aggressive treatment. We use Romopal. It was a big concentration comparatively with what we've used to the 90s. And we use alcohol, but only 10 minutes, tamponing all the surface until it gets saturated. It was rinsed with distillated water, and each time we change the papers. There were no secondary effects. You can see the image through the showcase in the permanent exhibition. This is the most important piece textile we conserved until now. We restored. It has a very particular story because this represents the portrait of Maria of Mangop. It was the last heiress of the Byzantium Empire, and we know that because on this veil tomb there are embroidered all the 4 symbols of Asan, Comnene, and Paleolog family. She was married with one of our greatest prince, Stephen the Great, and he brought, we think, the technology of Byzantine embroidery with her in Moldavia. Some of historian of arts consider this that self-portrait. The problem was that this amazing embroidery had been exhibited in Putna Monastery since 1974 in a showcase, but in a very, very dry atmosphere. There were 25 relative humidity percent when we were there. The embroidery should be exhibited in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and it was our sorrow that couldn't be done because of the poor shape of conservation. The second problem was that the monastery don't allow us to bring the embroidery in Bucharest. There were 500 kilometers in plain summer, and they were afraid that something could happen. So we have to get solution and to build facilities for cleaning and restoring this in Putna Monastery. We prefer a very, very small room comparatively with what we have in the Royal Palace, because it's much easy to control all the system. It's an image about the problems of the silk. Some tests with the Radix saponaria officinalis before and after cleaning. Some problems of the embroidery. Sorry. These are some photos from the cleaning procedures. We used inox basin with a screen similar with a suction table screen. Everything was done in a very respecting the traditional way of cleaning these embroideries. We do not have many information, but the things we got, I think, are okay. We protect all the damaged surface with very fine net which was not stitched very often, but rare just to keep in place. We use very, very light brushes only for metal because the embroidery of metal was extremely in good shape. And this was the single moment when we have to raise up the frame where the embroidery was to put the absorbent paper on the screen. Apparently, the embroidery get a lot of problems after cleaning, but these are specific to gold embroideries, and there is no problem to keep it under control. The problem here was that the satin, the edges of the satin rise up, and we have to keep it in place. We used entomological needles, extremely fine as a hair fiber, so there was no problem for the textile. You can see by comparatively the same place before cleaning and after restoring, and also the difference of metal cleaning. The solution used was, as I told you, Radix saponaria, only 10 minutes and 25 minutes immersion bath. Before of that, we raise step by step the relative humidity in the room in around 6 months. You see the dates there. We don't use more than 20 degrees temperature for washing, and no more than 21st centigrade in the room environment. Also, we do practice before cleaning this with other kind of textile to get the simultaneously of our actions. Conclusions. For the 50 years, the percentages of soaps and detergent decreased 100 times, and you see how now being 1-2% in the most for the most dirty and well-shaped conservation objects in the benefit of the textiles. Radix saponaria is used as a general soap because we do not notice any secondary effects. The other substances used, we are not using EDTA anymore because the Radix is doing the same results with better control. We are not doing glycerin anymore because of the problems that it are increased. And I think something was happened here. No. Because I want to say that I'm extremely grateful to all those colleagues of mine who work since 1960 till now, and I hope with the help of our colleagues from all over the world we can get better results. Thank you very much for your attention.